The sensational Cirroc Lofton, and just Larry. Or as we like to call him, Dr. Trek.
Doctor. How's it going, Bay Area?
Give it up for Life Support Live.
Welcome, welcome to Life Support Live.
Will you stop a second?
We're getting booted up here.
Go ahead. Why don't you tell
Welcome to Life Support Live. We used to be a weekly live show during the pandemic that explored how Star Trek can help us to boldly go in our own lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
Which sounds like what a famous starship captain once said. And as another famous starship captain once said, we'll try to have a little fun along the way.
I am Dr. Ali Matu.
And I'm Larry Nemecek. One of us is a real doctor.
And we'll leave it to you to figure out who that might be.
Dr. Trek.
It is so wonderful to have you all here. We're excited to close out, and almost close out the convention here. So we were a live show that started during the pandemic to help us use Star Trek to get through those uncertain times. And now we kind of reconvene whenever we can to continue that mission. And we are so excited to have Cirroc Lofton here with us.
I'm back.
He's back. We couldn't keep him away from you all. That was like 30 seconds off stage. I love it. Yeah, back-to-back panels here. We have been so excited to have this live panel here for our very first guest.
This is an historic, thank you all for hanging on to the end of Sunday, let me just say.
Yeah.
We've got two historic moments here for us. As Ollie said, we did this for do we have any lifers in the audience?
Yeah, what up?
Okay.
There we go.
They may tell you about so for 2 years at 10 a.m. every Saturday, with only a couple of exceptions, we had a 2-hour live show where we mashed up mental health and Star Trek in a fun, geeky way with our lifers audience, and did that for 2 years. And then we ended it, and we've done a couple of specials with Virtual TrekCon. But this is our first, number one, our first live support live in an audience. So you're historic.
Lives.
And our first time to ever have an actual guest worked in the format. So thank you, Cirroc.
All right, I'm the first.
All right.
Thank you for doing it.
So, for the fans of the show, you know I'm a big Niner. Deep Space Nine is my deep love. So, Cirroc, I am so honored to have you here. We open up the show with a briefing room where we kind of do a deep dive.
Our theme for the day is...
Our theme for the day. We wanted to talk about the Siskos.
Okay.
And we wanted to talk about, when we think about the Siskos, there's so much that comes to mind. Family, resilience, love, really good cooking. Really popular with the ladies too, the Siskos, I must say. So we wanted to start out by asking you a question about what do you think is the legacy of Jake Sisko? Let's just kind of start up with a real easy question.
Boom.
Like
Is
that.
Are we in the briefing room?
We're in the briefing room. Let's
There
open
we
up
go.
that briefing room.
Okay, now we're now.
Oh, the legacy of Jake Sisko. Yeah, right? Legacy. Here we go. I think the legacy, one of the things is that, to choose your own path in life. I think that's one of the big legacies of Jake, Everybody expected him to follow in the family business and do what his dad did, and he decided to do what he wanted to do and kind of, blaze his own trail. And so I think that's one of the legacies behind it. I was speaking earlier about characters that I like that have an independence to them, a Han Solo type of vibe, where they don't do what everybody else does. They kind of, they're trailblazers. They're loners to some degree. And I feel like Jake took a journey that was less traveled when he decided to go into the journalism, and he went into war reporting, and he made friends with a Ferengi that hadn't been done before, and
Those
Ferengi guys, and it was a positive impact on his life too, right? That didn't just make friends with him, but made friends with him, and that friendship led to a better version of both of them. So. I think that's going to be part of the legacy for Jake Sisko.
Yeah. You just real quick thought.
Oh, I have many quick thoughts, but you mentioned the war reporting. One of my favorite things that Ben Sisko says to Jake is in that episode, where he says something to the effect of, it takes great courage to talk about your experience, but even more courage to share about these vulnerabilities, or Jake talks about that thin line between courage and cowardice.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And how proud his dad is of Jake being so honest and authentic. And I love those moments between Ben and Jake, where he really comes around to understanding and supporting Jake's journey and understanding that it's different than his own. And when we were putting this episode together, thinking about what were the factors that helped Jake to be so resilient, because where the story starts with both Jake and his dad. Mm-hmm. They've lost a mother, lost a wife, now traveling to this new place. Jake is alone. There's gonna be a lot of kids on the station, right? No, not really.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think were some of the factors that kept Jake so close to his dad and also helped him to be resilient through all those ups and downs that happened over the course of the show?
Yeah, I'm going to say the guidance comes from Sisko, from Avery Brooks, from the Sisko character, by being there, by staying present, I remember Jake coming and saying, "Hey, I got a girl that I'm dating," and Sisko like, whoa, run that back a little bit. Tell me about this Dabo girl. And so, half of the job of being a parent is being present. Just being there.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a big thing. You're at the game, you're at the recital, you're at the parent-teacher meeting, you're involved, and you're just being there.
And there's a difference between being present and the hovering, right? The helicopter parent. It's just like they have no time to have their own time and develop on their own. I mean, there's a healthy balance in that too.
Yeah, and Sisko's balancing running the whole thing and also, making sure he's in his kid's life. And I think that's the big thing for me, the guidance that Sisko brings. But it's also the curiosity of Jake trying to, do what most children do, and that's test the boundaries. Like, can I go this far? And, can I go a little bit farther? And, that's just the natural behavior of children. Don't put your hand in the cookie jar, my boy. Okay. So I think that's part of it. Plus, there was a lot of parental-like figures for Jake on the show.
Well, right.
You had Kira kind of playing that.
It did take a village, and they had one.
Yes, and they had one. You had
The Space Village, yeah.
Right, Odo's walking over like, I got my eye on you. So there was a village raising Jake, and I think that's what kept him, from going too far, going, astray. Kira being there to give those moments where she's like, "I'm here for you. I got you, Jake. You need a hug right now."
Yeah.
So I think it was that helped lead to his growth and development.
Yeah. I was going to say on the meta level, because I represent the behind the scenes. I would say part of the legacy of Jake, not as a character, but the show, is just the whole Sisko, the father-son relationship and the way the show was written.
The family.
They gave that to you to play and to Avery to play, but the way they did that. And I will go there and say, when they look back at the 80s and the 90s and the aughts and they talk about depictions of the black family and the black fathers, they overlook Deep Space Nine all the time, but that was such a rock-solid moment that you didn't always see on TV.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it started right from the pilot when you saw Jake and Sisko fishing, and having that father-son moment, and connecting on this level where you said, "Oh wow, this is a healthy relationship between a father and son. This is a relationship where it's functional. The dysfunction was losing the mother." In the pilot, but the function was Sisko saying, "I'm going to stand here and fight for my kid, and I'm going to be present in his life, and I'm going to be both parents wrapped
even
up
with
in
everything
one.
else going on,
with everything,
with a world to save and an enemy to face and bureaucracy to deal with, and my own demons. I'm going to be there for my kid."
Yeah, which is what I mean. Every parent right now, if they're sitting at work and they get a phone call and say, "Hey, your kid is in the hospital or something," nobody's going to say, "Well, I finish work at 6 o'clock and when I'm done, I'll be there." It's emergency time. It's go time. It's now, and you know what your priorities are. It's like, this is my priority. So I think that is what actually showed the vulnerable side of Sisko. We got to see Sisko's softer, more vulnerable side because he, that if there was a weakness to him, it was the fact that he has a child that, he has to protect.
Yeah.
I think that's a great segue to the counselor's log.
I was going to say.
This is the part of the show where we do a deeper. This is usually a 2-hour show that we're doing at 20 minutes.
Okay, all right.
And when we would do the briefing room, we would survey all. We'd have a theme, but we would survey all the series and all that. But we're focusing on Sisko today in DS9, and this thing won't stay put. Stay put.
So with here, this is the part of the show where we do a deeper dive into some of the psychology behind the themes that we go into.
But easy bites.
Yeah.
There's never a quiz tomorrow. So helpful bites.
So the series starts with Ben Sisko being visited by the prophets, wormhole aliens, and that line, "You live here." This moment of trauma, this loss of your wife, loss of Jake's mother. And we see through the series that Jake is a writer, he's a journalist, in one alternate future he's an author, but making meaning, understanding the story, creating a narrative is something that Jake learns how to do, which I love that part of it, because that's how we treat trauma, is we help people to get unstuck with a part of the story that they're stuck with, and help them to see a different picture, a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Now with the 7th rule, which if you don't subscribe to, you all need to subscribe to the 7th rule. I love how you all have been revisiting these stories, and I've been learning so much through your journey with that. So I'm going to flip things around here a little bit on you, Cirroc. how has, the question I would usually ask people is, how have these events impacted you? And here I want to flip it around. Seeing Jake and his story, and now revisiting, having completed that revisit of all the DS9 episodes, how has Jake Sisko impacted Cirroc Lofton?
How was Jake? That's a good one. That's a good one.
Here's the thing, you were what, 9 when you started? How old, 12?
Well, I was 12 when I first started auditioning, and 13 by the time we were filming and getting ready. So, it's really about Avery Brooks. I have to keep going back to him because he's so amazing and instrumental in my life. I won't stray from that. You're molded into this. You see an example and you go for that. And that's what impacted Jake, his experience with his dad and seeing the sacrifices that he made and having those conversations that he had. That part of Jake has now impacted Cirroc as the dad himself. And so living those moments with him has informed me as a dad about taking certain steps to make sure that, my child knows that I love her. I think that's one of the biggest things. It's like, I love you. Sometimes people say, I lived my whole life, never heard my dad say I love you once. And I don't want that to be the case and true for me. So I make sure that I say I love you to my daughter, and I give her a kiss on the forehead, and I hug her, and I let her know I'm gonna be here for you, and everything's gonna be all right. And I think that's part of, my effect from having, experience Avery doing that for me as Sisko, but even as Avery. My life and Jake's life are so intertwined that I don't know really where one begins and the other one ends. In the show, we had Sisko's Creole kitchen, and then in real life, I opened a restaurant. And Jake was a writer and a journalist, and now I'm kind of interviewing people and doing some of that too. So it's this dynamic of art and life and how they imitate one another. So I almost can't say where one begins and the other ends. I've done a lot of writing myself, and I wrote an album, a hip hop album that I recorded a few years ago, and I will be releasing at some point this year. So you'll be You'll be hearing some music this year, some Cirroc Lofton special.
We're gonna hold you to it now.
Yeah, it's coming out this year. And so all of those things is just one thing informs the other, and then it kind of it's two mirrors staring back at each other, reflecting back, and you almost don't know where one starts.
Well, your counselor's point was there that trauma, one way to work through that is to find the unstuck place, but journaling and writing and telling stories was one therapy there.
We'll get back to that in the away mission, but first, we have to get through a K3.
Oh, we have to do it in our short. So gosh, Ollie, what is the K3?
The K3 is the one reference in the original series to something mental health-y. And it was this bar, the K3 factor.
If you look at McCoy's original bio screen, the K3, brain function K3. So we just took that as our thing. Because in the show, we kid about this. So Ollie is Dr. Ollie Matu and then Dr. Trek, and we always say one of us is a real doctor. But so he's bringing the mental health. But the one thing I would always try to do is come up with a cool backstage, behind the scenes nugget or story that still reflected among the real life players of Star Trek, not the characters, in our theme today. And it'd be a lot of things. And today I'm just going to keep it real short, and it's not going to be real deep. But there was a deleted scene in the pilot where the whole thing is about Ben Sisko's journey, and he's at this crossroads, and he's got a kid, and they're sticking him on this station, and he's got the guy that killed his wife is the one telling him to, show up and be there, and he's all, and then he's thrown into this weird spiritual thing. And in the middle of all this, the late great Michael Piller had written a scene in this. Yes, give it up for Michael. There was a scene. I've got to stop it there. There was a scene. This is not the deleted scene, but this is reminiscent of it. He had a scene where he's in the station and he's, they're still picking up the damage and dusting things off and all the crap from the Kardashians. And there's a conversation with a college professor, a college president on Earth, a university professor, who has offered Sisko a professorship if he wants to leave Starfleet and give up all this stuff and take his kid and go back and be safe and secure. Did you know this?
Do you know about this scene? Yeah.
I'm hearing it for the first time.
Keep
going, you got me.
And support that exclusive
to us. Let us know.
So there's basically, it's just him sitting talking to a guy on a screen. And he's like, okay, Ben, we really want you here, and he's like, okay, I got to put some stuff together and I'll let you know. But the point of the scene was to show just, here's an option he had. It wasn't just everything is, who's this Picard guy, and this place is a disaster, and who are these people, and I'm not your spiritual guy. He had a nice, safe, secure thing over here waiting for him. And he wound up not going. And they wound up deleting the scene because it was probably one thing too many out of 47 other things you were learning in a pilot. But it was all, but to look back now and go, here's one place where he could have taken a safer path to have his kid in some little university campus on Earth. How safe could you be? And anyway, it was just a little interesting bit that goes away, but it's still a little bit of illumination on what was happening.
And what I love about that is...
Did I get you?
You did. Yeah,
Okay,
Larry's always trying to stump me with these hit reads. He's got a pretty good hit record.
Not stump so much, but go, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Which I didn't know that.
I didn't know either.
I didn't know that. And what I love about it is it shows how much Commander Sisko in that moment is really guided by meaning and purpose. And Starfleet, this is it. He knows he can make a big difference here, and this is what's so important to him. I think it ties back to his relationship with Jake. As he starts to see Jake is passionate about writing, about journalism, how he stays behind and on Terok Nor when the Dominion comes, that he respects it. He understands that, all right, I'm in Starfleet because this is where I think I can make the biggest difference. I think this is where Jake thinks he can make the biggest difference, and I'm going to support that.
Yeah, I won't differ from that. I think that's great that they had a choice for him to make. It would have been nice to see a little bit reference to that. But I think also that he felt he could make a stable home for Jake at Deep Space Nine. I think that was a conscious move where he said, you know what? I can make this work. There's enough here, with Keiko and O'Brien, and there were enough elements there where I feel like he felt it could work. And, we were talking about trauma, losing his wife, losing my mom. That trauma was something that forces you to reevaluate where you're at in life. And it was actually the catalyst for him being so confrontational with Picard. Yeah. Screw you. This is I don't care about the chain of command at this moment. I'm pissed.
And that slow burn was so effective too, because Picard's like, oh. I didn't know you were. Well, I get it. But he just sits in that icy scene, and finally he's like, "No, sir, I was at." He didn't get to scream. He doesn't yell.
We've met before.
We have met before. Yeah.
What I will do, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
But there's moments where young little Jake is kind of he has some bits of, oh God, Dad, this is crap. This is a junk heap, man. We're gonna live here. Remember at the very beginning? He's like, and his dad's like, we're gonna make it. I'm sure there's kids at this. Oh, they're fringy kids. Okay, well.
Well, and then when you look at the set and how Kardashian station, so it's all got the Kardashian vibe. It doesn't have that clean pastel-y color of the next generation where you're like, hey, this is Disneyland. I love this place.
There's no carpet.
Yeah.
There's no carpet.
Yes, it was.
Humps on the doors.
Humps on the doors, just dark, colors and.
Not ADA compliant.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, we're moving into this haunted house. Everything's gonna be great.
And this Irish guy's running around cursing at it all. Yeah.
So that's a good segue to the away mission. So we always like to leave Life Support Live with some kind of tip, some way that you can apply what we're talking about to your own life. And one of the things we talk about with trauma and that what can really help people to be resilient is creating narrative. And it's not about journaling every single day of your life, but what research has shown is all you have to do is take about 20 minutes and you can write, you can podcast, you can sing, you can find a way to tell the story of something that you might be stuck with or something you might be thinking about. I like to do it with writing, but you can find any way to do it. And Cirroc, I got my last question for you.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been 30 years, 35? Since the premiere of Star Trek Deep Space Nine? Yeah. Okay, so 30 years later, Jake, I like to imagine that Jake he's still writing.
Yeah.
What do you think he's writing about now, 30 years after the events of Deep Space Nine? What do you think he's writing about?
And we're not talking rainy night alternate futures. We're talking prime Jake.
I think Jake's gonna write about what's personal to him, his life experiences. I think he's gonna write about his friend Nog. I think he's gonna write about his dad. I think he's going to get in even deeper into Bajoran culture and figure out, the meaning of being the emissary and see it from an adult perspective. I think he's going to be immersed in wormhole prophet ideology and try to understand it to its maximum degree.
What about his younger half-sibling?
Yeah.
The younger half-sibling has to do clamshell duty like I did back at Sisko. You gotta clean up them clams for a little bit. You gotta earn your stripes.
This is historic, kid. Yeah, this is the way they used to do it.
This is the Sisko way. Here's the brush.
Jump that replicator. We're doing it Grandpa's way.
Yes. Carrying tradition on, but I like that you guys deal with mental health because I always talk about how mental health is one of the areas of Star Trek that's not fixable with a tricorder. Mm-hmm. It's not fixable with something easy, and everybody's, Picard's dealing with it in the new series. Everybody's dealing with some mental health issues, trauma in their lives. So.
Garrett's got claustrophobia.
Yes.
And a not great counselor.
Oh man, yeah, it takes a lot more than plexing.
Mental health is a serious issue. We all deal with it at times in our life. Whether you're, anywhere on the stratosphere of life, economically, socially, you may run into a time in your life where your mental health is challenged, and you have to recover from loss. You have to recover from personal injury. You have to recover from
just upheavals in life,
just
moving,
or changing jobs, or moving, going to another state or country to live in. And my mom's immigrated from Ethiopia, the first one in her family to come from Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is thousands of years old, and in thousands of years, she's the first one to say, I'm going to leave this area and go there to America and start a new life. And there's other people that have done this from all over the world, emigrating from places and starting all over again, being the first of their family, the first of their generation to do something. And that comes with the fear and anxiety and uncertainty. And we all look for security in life. We all say, I want to be secure. I want to be guaranteed that I'm going to be taken care of. And really, there are no guarantees because of how random life is, because of, anything can happen to anyone at any time. And we that's why we cherish these moments. But having the tools to deal with mental health issues, the writing, the visualization,
Support around.
and the support structure around you. Yes, reaching out to people for advice or for comfort or talking with someone about your problems. That's how we get through mental health issues. You're not gonna take a pill. You're not gonna have a magical tricorder experience and be fixed. It has to be worked out. You have to resolve issues. You have to confront issues. And the more you understand those things, the more you understand yourself.
That is extremely well said, and I think what is true for all of us here is Star Trek has been such a great part of our mental health, and the Star Trek community has been such a big part of our mental health. And so,
can I just say, especially the last few years with the pandemic, and I remember I'd been Zooming with Portal 47 for like 7 years, so most of the world had no idea what Zoom was or what virtual. And I saw when the pandemic was coming, I did a couple of my live shows, and I said, we're going to be okay because we have this tool. I had no idea it would become so ubiquitous. Saturday Night Live would do parodies, and the whole world would know. But I was like, we're going to get through this. We've got tools now. 10 years ago, maybe not, but now, thank God if it was going to happen, it happened now. But that's just one case where we had tools to get through and keep our sanity and our humanity through a trauma like that, a mass trauma.
And on behalf of everyone here, thank you for continuing to tell this story and being part of this community with Seventh Rule, being over here joining us on this panel. It's been
and the news this weekend.
Yes.
Do you know this?
I'm
going to stump you again.
Yeah, this is
Cirroc? Does everybody know about Cirroc's news? This is public, right?
Yeah, it's official. Yes, it is
official. Have you
official.
heard? Stanford. He's going to be a visiting professor at Stanford.
Oh, congratulations!
Yes, I'm excited about it. We're going to be doing Afrofuturism, Deep Space Nine, world building. Absolutely, I'm excited to take on the challenge. We've got the Professor Adam Banks in the house right there in the front. Mr. Stanford himself is here firsthand, and it's really an honor to be asked to participate in this. I'm excited about it because I think that we can all learn from these very simple shows that teach us so many different things and have so many, so much impact on our lives. All of us here were impacted by Star Trek in some way or another. Whether it made you find your significant other, whether it made you go through some tough times, whether it helped you cope with loss, or it inspired you in your field.
I was going to say, the whole profession might have opened up too.
Yes, and so there's so many different ways that we're touched by this show that Gene Roddenberry gave us, and this idealistic future that we strive for. So I think it's wonderful. And going back to what you were saying, Larry, about the Zoom life and how we were able to overcome the pandemic and still stay connected. One of the things that I resented about the pandemic was social distancing, because I believe that being social and having the connection with each other socially is instrumental in the human experience.
Almost like social distancing is an oxymoron.
Yeah, it should have been called physical distancing.
Right. But social distance, it would rub me the wrong way. And so the fact that we kept together with the Zooms, with these podcasts, that we stayed together, we didn't distance ourselves, we stayed connected, even though we kept physical distance. And I think that was one of the things that helped me understand the impact of the platform and how we're able to reach people.
speaking of physical distancing,
I felt you in the back there. I'll break by.
let's get physical. Actually, speaking of Zoom life, we're gonna zoom you off the stage because you guys are out of time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.